Right now, at this moment, the body of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is moving through the streets of Tehran in a 12-hour funeral procession. Mourners are chanting revenge. Placards call for retaliation against the U.S. president and Israeli prime minister. The man's son, who became Iran's new supreme leader a week after the February 28 airstrikes that killed his father, has not appeared in public once since taking power. Yesterday, Erling Haaland scored twice to eliminate five-time champions Brazil from the World Cup. And England beat Mexico 3-2 at the Estadio Azteca, while playing the last 35 minutes with 10 men. Tonight, the United States faces Belgium in Seattle, with Balogun's red card ban suspended by FIFA just yesterday, clearing him to play. And NASA's administrator told Face the Nation on Sunday that the U.S. is very much in a space race right now against China, 2 days after Xi Jinping personally promoted 2 new generals in a military reshuffle designed to ensure the People's Liberation Army's loyalty to him specifically. Let's take all 3. Start with Tehran, because the procession happening today is one of the most significant images in global politics this year, and it deserves to be understood in its full context. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was Iran's supreme leader from 1989 until his death on February 28, 2026, when U.S. and Israeli strikes began the conflict that has consumed the last 4 months of international affairs. His coffin, and the coffins of family members who were also killed in those strikes, has been lying in state at Tehran's Grand Masala religious complex since Saturday, July 4th, when tens of thousands of Iranians began filing through to pay their respects. Today, Monday, July 6th, the coffins have been placed on a truck for a procession through Tehran's streets, with a 12-hour route through the capital. AFP photographers documented flower petals being thrown onto the coffins. Getty Images captured mourners marching with placards calling for revenge against both the U.S. president and the Israeli prime minister. AFP journalists also documented the chants, "Revenge, revenge." There are 2 things happening simultaneously in this procession that matter for understanding what comes next in the broader Iran situation. The first is political. Iran's new supreme leader is Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Ali Khamenei, appointed 1 week after his father's death. As CBS News noted in its live coverage, Mojtaba has yet to appear in public since being named to the position. This is unusual by any standard of political visibility. A new leader of a country, particularly one who has just come to power through extraordinary circumstances in the middle of a war, during a peace negotiation, would typically be expected to make public appearances precisely to demonstrate continuity and authority. Mojtaba's sustained absence from public view 4 months into his leadership raises legitimate questions about his position, about internal IRGC dynamics, and about who is actually making the decisions on the Iranian side of the negotiations that the U.S. has been conducting. The second is diplomatic. Trump, in his Mount Rushmore speech on July 3rd, described the pause in military operations as, "We gave him a week off for a funeral because we're nice." The funeral procession happening today in Tehran represents the formal public culmination of that pause, the moment when the mourning period reaches its public ceremonial peak. The question the ceasefire and peace negotiation track now has to answer is what happens after this procession ends. The crowds chanting revenge in the streets of Tehran today are not fringe voices. They are part of a genuine mass outpouring of public grief and political anger. The peace process, to the extent that one exists, is asking both governments to do something very difficult: sign documents and make commitments at exactly the moment when the emotional and political temperature in Iran is at its highest, and when the Iranian government's own leadership structure is visibly uncertain. When Trump said, "We gave him a week off," he was describing a calculation made in Washington about how to manage the diplomatic timing around a funeral. Today's procession is the human reality that calculation was designed to manage. The mourners in Tehran carrying revenge placards did not agree to any 60-day MOU. They agreed to nothing. And the new supreme leader has not been seen. Now Sunday's World Cup, which produced back-to-back matches that will be remembered for years, Brazil was eliminated from the 2026 World Cup yesterday. Erling Haaland scored twice at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Headers and low finishes, both in the second half, to seal a 2-1 victory for Norway over the five-time world champions. Haaland's goals were his 6th and 7th of the tournament, tying him at the top of the Golden Boot standings with Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe at 7 goals each. Brazil was not dominant. ESPN's analysis noted Norway produced only 0.84 expected goals despite dominating possession, while Brazil's expected goal figure of 2.73 was inflated by 2 penalty situations. Norway goalkeeper Erling Nyland saved a Bruno Guimaraes penalty early in the first half. Neymar eventually converted from the spot in stoppage time, a moment ESPN described as possibly his final international appearance, to pull it back to 2-1. But time ran out. Brazil is out. The historical weight of what Norway did is worth stating clearly. Before this tournament, Norway had never won a knockout match at a World Cup. They have now won 2, against Ivory Coast in the round of 32, and now against Brazil in the round of 16. Their record against Brazil is now 3 wins and 2 draws. They have never lost to the 5-time champions. The 2026 result replicates the 1998 scoreline exactly. Norway beat Brazil 2-1 at the France World Cup as well, that time in the group stage. This is not a fluke. Norway, with Haaland and Martin Odegaard leading a genuinely excellent squad, has beaten the most decorated nation in the tournament's history twice, at World Cups in 2 different decades. The second match of Sunday was, by CNN's description, one of the best games of the 2026 World Cup. England beat Mexico 3-2 at the Estadio Azteca, an arena that CNN correctly describes as one of the great cathedrals of world soccer, the stadium where Pelé played in 1970 and Diego Maradona scored the Hand of God in 1986. Jude Bellingham scored twice in under 2 minutes late in the first half to give England a shocking 2-0 lead inside an atmosphere Yahoo Sports described as electric. Julian Quiñones pulled one back for Mexico before halftime. England's Gerald Quansah was sent off following a VAR review, so a reckless challenge, reducing the 3 Lions to 10 men for the final 35 minutes. Harry Kane converted a penalty to make it 3-1, his 5th goal of the tournament. Mexico's Raúl Jiménez converted a penalty to make it 3-2. The final whistle brought silence to a stunned Azteca, with 3 Lions playing over the speakers to a heartbroken crowd. Mexico had been the tournament's most dominant team before this match. 4 wins, 8 goals, 0 conceded. England ended all 3 of those statistics simultaneously at the Azteca. The 3 Lions now face Norway in the quarterfinals in Miami on Saturday. Tonight, 2 more round of 16 matches take place. Portugal faces Spain at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, at 3 p.m. Eastern, arguably the most anticipated match of the entire bracket. At 8 p.m. Eastern, at Lumen Field in Seattle, the United States faces Belgium. And there is a significant development from yesterday that changes the American team's preparation. FIFA's disciplinary committee announced on July 5th that it is suspending Folarin Balogun's 1-game red card ban for a probationary period of 1 year. NPR confirmed the decision. CBS News confirmed that U.S. Soccer said it is pleased that Balogun will be able to compete against Belgium in Seattle. Balogun, who scored the opener against Bosnia-Herzegovina in the round of 32, before receiving his red card in the 64th minute, is available for tonight's match. The Belgium context matters. Belgium beat Senegal 3-2 in the round of 32, coming back from 0-2 down at halftime on a VAR-awarded stoppage time penalty, a result that earned them significant criticism and a measure of psychological exhaustion. Belgium has De Bruyne and Lukaku, a midfield capable of controlling matches, and the experience of tournament knockout football. The United States on home soil, with their best attacker reinstated, has the atmosphere and the motivation. This is exactly the match the tournament needed on a Monday night in Seattle. And now, a story that requires holding a domestic and an international frame together, because they're pointing at the same thing from 2 different angles. On Sunday, July 5th, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman appeared on Face the Nation and said plainly, "The United States is very much in a space race right now against China, as the two countries compete to land astronauts on the moon and secure a near-permanent presence there." Isaacman's appearance came on the 250th anniversary weekend of American independence, and his framing was direct, not aspirational language about cooperation, but competitive language about a race that is happening and that has real strategic stakes. That interview landed 2 days after an event I covered on Friday, July 3rd. Xi Jinping personally promoted 2 officers to the rank of general at a Central Military Commission ceremony in Beijing. The promoted officers are Zhang Shuguang and Wang Gang, the Air Force commander. NPR, confirmed across multiple affiliates, described the promotion as a precursor to a reorganization at the top of the CMC, which has been thinned by a series of anti-corruption removals that left the commission with only 2 active members, Xi as chairman and Jiang Shengmin as the remaining vice chair. 2 former vice chairs have been removed, including the military's former top general. These 2 stories, Isaacman's space race interview and Xi's military promotions, are not the same story, but they share a subject. The space race that Isaacman described as active and current is being pursued, on the Chinese side, by a military apparatus whose command structure Xi is systematically reshaping to ensure personal loyalty. The PLA Air Force, now commanded by newly promoted Wang Gang, is directly relevant to any contested scenario in the Pacific or involving space-based assets. China's military and its space program are not organizationally separate. The PLA Strategic Support Force oversees China's space, cyber, and electronic warfare capabilities. Isaacman's "very much in a space race right now" framing was, in the context of Face the Nation, directed at the civilian goal of lunar landing and sustained lunar presence. That is real and meaningful on its own terms. But it is happening inside a broader competition that the Xi CMC promotions, happening 48 hours earlier, make visibly more complex. The civilian space race and the military competition for strategic advantage in the Pacific and in orbit are not 2 separate races. They run on the same track, with the same technology, toward overlapping objectives. When a NASA administrator says the US is very much in a space race against China, and 2 days before that, China's president personally promoted an Air Force commander to general in a military loyalty purge, both of those facts are describing the same underlying competition from 2 different vantage points. The question that neither announcement directly answers, but that both of them together make urgent, is whether the institutions making decisions about the US side of that competition are as consolidated and aligned in their direction as Xi is demonstrably making his. Xi promoted 2 generals personally at a ceremony, ensuring the command structure reports to him. The U.S. space program under Isaacman has an administrator with genuine credentials. He flew to the ISS as a private citizen, has hands-on experience, and a mandate to accelerate, whether the pace, the funding, the legislative backing, and the institutional coherence of the American effort matches the strategic urgency of the framing is a question Isaacman's confident television appearance doesn't itself answer. But naming the race clearly, as he did, is at least the right starting point. 3 stories today. Tehran is in the middle of a 12-hour funeral procession for the Supreme Leader killed in February, with mourners chanting revenge outside, and the new Supreme Leader conspicuously absent from public life 4 months into his role. Sunday's World Cup delivered Haaland eliminating Brazil, arguably the tournament's biggest upset, and England surviving Mexico in the Azteca's cauldron with 10 men, setting up Norway versus England in Miami, and a quarterfinal bracket that now leads to Seattle tonight, where the United States faces Belgium with Balogun cleared to play, and a NASA administrator and a Chinese general promotion, 2 days apart, together describe a competition that is active, strategic, and happening on a timeline that neither side has publicly acknowledged is as compressed as the actions of both sides suggest. The funeral ends today. The match is tonight. The space race has been running for years.